Welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. In today's video, I thought I would address some questions that I've gotten over the past several months on the channel. Obviously, I'm not going to address all the questions I get. I actually receive hundreds of comments on the channel. I try to read all of them. Occasionally, some get away from me. I reply to as many as I can. However, sometimes the volume's just too high, and I can't, get to every single one of them. But I picked a few out that I thought were interesting, would be interesting topics of conversation. So I, picked a couple of those out and thought we'd go ahead and address them in a video format. I'm going to try to do this periodically as we go forward. So if you have a question specifically that you want me to address in a video, make sure you let me know that you like it discussed. Otherwise, I'll just kind of usually pick ones that I find interesting. So the first one I want to cover is it possible to change the caliber on a Colt Woodsman? I thought this question was kind of interesting for a variety of reasons. I've gotten some similar questions in regards to changing the caliber on various firearms. The Colt Woodsman question, it kind of intrigued me, and there's a couple reasons for that. The first, the Colt Woodsman is a collectible firearm. I mean, it has value in and of itself because they're relatively rare. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but there's more demand for them than there are, physical specimens anymore, especially ones of, any kind of good condition. And so the question would be, if you wanted to change that, you would actually be destroying a lot of that collectible value. So, is that something that you would really want to do? So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you're willing to do that. You have a Colt Woodsman and you want to change the caliber on it. So then the question becomes, can it be done? Well, the simple answer is, well, yes. If you throw enough money at something, you can pretty much make any firearm shoot any caliber you want. The question is, though, it becomes kind of the law of diminishing returns. If you put enough money into it to make it possible, is it really going to be worthwhile when you're finished? So, that's up to each individual person, what they consider, what's worth it or not. With a Colt Woodsman, it was a .22 long rifle, blowback operated, semi-automatic pistol. And the design parameters of it wouldn't really lend itself to very many different possible chamberings. For one thing, being blowback operated, everything's kind of balanced. The slide weight, the spring rates, everything else is balanced to handle the energies delivered by a .22 long rifle. So even if you kept it with a .22 caliber and went to like .22 Magnum, that's a lot more energy. So the whole dynamics of everything's going to change. You'd probably have to, at the very least, you'd have to change the spring rates. You'd have to bore out the chamber to accommodate the longer length of the cartridge. The barrel, since it's .22 caliber is .22 caliber, so that would probably be okay. The metallurgy of the barrel, though, while it was fine for a .22 long rifle, .22 Magnum would probably be pushing that a little bit. It'd be plenty safe, at least for any reasonable amount of use. But the biggest problem would be really the recoil and how do you keep that the energy contained within it. Blowback operated firearms uses the inertia or the mass of the slide to counteract the energy from the cartridge going off in the chamber. So you increase that energy, there has to be a corresponding increase in the mass of the slide or something like that to counterbalance it. Otherwise, the chamber, it would open too soon, and it could cause injury or potentially even death by the escaping gases and even depending on how it comes out, the cartridge itself could fragment on the ejection. So you'd have basically little bits of shrapnel that could come flying out as well. So all of that could be overcome. It would take remachining of the slide to probably add more mass of some type, things like that. Going to a larger caliber, you could probably drill the barrel out and maybe even sleeve it to put a stronger strength barrel through it to handle even higher pressures if you wanted to go up to a higher caliber. but then you're really going to be running into issues with, you know, the how do you handle the energies from inside. So it's possible, but it's not something I would really recommend, especially something with a firearm that's as old and as collectible as the Colt Woodsman. So I hope that answers that question, kind of. I know it's kind of an open-ended answer, but the reality with firearms is that's kind of how it works. They're mechanical objects, so anything mechanical, you can, you know, pretty much do anything you want with it. It's just a question of throwing enough money and resource at it. Next question, and this is one that I've gotten a lot. It has something to do with how people perceive the shooting segments that we have in our videos. And it was, you seem to be shooting too close to the steel targets, or, you know, comments along those lines. And I think it's because the perception of how we will superimpose the image of the steel target over the image of us shooting. So if you look at it, you know, a certain way, it might look like we're literally only a foot or two away from the target, which would absolutely be unsafe. But the reality is we're always at least 15 yards away from the steel target. Which is, technically it is pushing it a tiny bit. They recommend, you know, at least 50 feet with pistol calibers on those steel targets. However, distances of as close of up to 7 yards is actually reasonably safe. You have to make sure that the other surroundings in the area, there's not, you know, other things on the ground that could cause secondary ricochets. Essentially, when your bullet hits the steel plate, the energy is absorbed by the plate, and the bullet itself usually disintegrates on impact and generally will fly straight down. And if you've ever noticed when shooting a steel target, there'll be like a line of just where the ground is just completely shredded below the plate, where all of that bullet fragments and everything are just shooting down off the plate. So if you had something else that was on the ground to where those fragments could then bounce off of that as well and direct it toward the shooter, it would become unsafe. So you have to just, you know, make sure your surroundings are set up to allow for shooting steel targets. The reality is shooting steel targets always represents a certain level of risk because there's always the potential for a ricochet of fragments, things like that. And of course you have to also make sure that you don't use plates that are damaged. If a plate gets damaged, or any type of a concave surface in it, or you know, a crack or something, it could cause ricochets or something that could be very dangerous. So, but in general, we are always a safe distance away from the plates. Next question I got, and this one, I've gotten this question a couple times, surprisingly. We asked a couple different ways, and what I find interesting, it's in this particular gun. I've gotten the same question for a variety of guns, but this particular gun I find interesting that people have asked the question. And the question is the GSG MP40 a good gun for self-defense? And in case you're wondering what the GSG MP40 is, if you're not familiar with it, it's right here in front of me. It's black on black, so everything kind of, you know, disappears. This is the GSG MP40. It is a semi-automatic knockoff of the original MP40, which was a full automatic machine gun. These are just semi-automatic. You couldn't even really easily convert them. That's another question I've gotten. You know, could you convert these? And the answer is technically yeah, but it wouldn't hold up. These are not constructed in any way like the original machine gun. This is just a semi-automatic firearm that looks like an MP40 machine gun. Here's the reality. This is heavy. It's heavy, it has a long barrel. Magazine capacity, you know, I guess it's a large capacity for a pistol because it's got that long stick magazine. It holds like 25 rounds, something like that. But it's not really conducive to using for a self-defense firearm. And there's, you know, the main reason, of course, is it weighs so much. Also, there's not a decent way to aim this to really, you know, hold it and aim it to get any type of controlled shooting. So from that aspect, it's not a good firearm for self-defense. I'll be honest, I'm not really sure why people ask the question. Probably because it it looks so imposing. From that, from that perspective, it might be useful, because that would tend to be frightening if someone, if you needed a firearm for self-defense. I've gotten the question, like I said, a couple different ways. One was, would it be good for a home defense gun? And the other kind of permutation of that is, would it make a good truck gun, or something like that? And the answer to all of that is not really. As I said, they're heavy, they're awkward, they're hard to aim. They're just not a real good firearm for any type of true self-defense uses. Of any type. It's fun to shoot. I mean, that's really all it's good for. It's for casual recreational plinking. It's accurate enough if you can get a good sight picture, which is difficult because of the long length of it. It's awkward, and so for all those reasons, it's not really suitable for self-defense. Could you use it for self-defense? Well, you can use any firearm for self-defense. Would I recommend it? Absolutely not. This is not a good firearm for anything related to that. It is a lot of fun. I mean, we have fun when we take it out, but even that, realistically speaking, we don't take it out that often, because as fun as it is to shoot, there are other firearms that we enjoy shooting more. So that pretty much wraps that up. So this is something I'll want to revisit occasionally, kind of go through questions as I get them. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and as always, until next week, stay safe.